The boarding ramp of the transport ship hissed as it lowered, releasing a cloud of recycled atmosphere into the busy docking bay of New Geneva Space Station. Kira Voss stepped onto the metal grating, her elongated limbs moving with the fluid, grace characteristic of the Stellari people. Beneath her translucent skin, networks of crystalline formations caught the harsh station lighting, creating prismatic patterns that shifted with each breath. Around her, the normal bustle of the docking bay ground to an uncomfortable halt. Conversations died mid-sentence. Cargo loaders paused in their work. Children pressed closer to their parents, wide eyes fixed on her alien form. Kira had experienced this reaction countless times during her journey from the stellary homeworld of Luminous, but it never became easier to bear. Her assignment papers crinkled in her grip as she approached the customs checkpoint. The human officer behind the scanner looked up from his datapad, and she watched his expression shift from professional boredom to barely concealed revulsion. His gaze lingered on the delicate antennae that emerged from her temples, twitching slightly as they detected the electromagnetic signatures of nearby technology. "Purpose of visit?" he asked, his voice clipped and formal. "Cultural exchange program," Kira replied, offering her documents. Her voice carried the musical quality of her species, each word accompanied by harmonic overtones. "I'm assigned to the Xenobiology Department for a 6-month research fellowship." The officer's scanner beeped as he processed her identification. Behind her, she could hear whispered conversations. "What is that thing? Why are they letting more of them on the station? I heard they can read minds with those antenna things." Kira's crystalline formations darkened to deep purple, an involuntary, emotional response that made several nearby humans step back nervously. Among the Stellaria, such color changes were normal expressions of feeling, but she had learned that they frightened other species. She had concentrated on returning her markings to their neutral silver state. "Temporary quarters assignment is level 7, Section C," the officer said, sliding her papers back across the counter with obvious reluctance to make contact. "Report to Dr. Harrison's lab tomorrow at 0800 hours. Next." As Kira gathered her belongings and made her way toward the lift, she noticed how the crowd parted before her like water around a stone. No one met her eyes. No one offered the common courtesies she had observed humans extending to each other. She was alone among thousands, isolated by fear and misunderstanding. The lift doors closed behind her, and for a moment she allowed her composure to slip. Her markings shifted through a spectrum of colors, expressing the loneliness and determination warring within her. She had come here with hope, believing that the famed New Geneva station would be different from the other human outposts she had visited, but as the lift carried her toward her quarters, that hope felt as fragile as starlight in the void. Dr. Marcus Reed looked up from his microscope as the laboratory doors slid open with a soft whisper. The figure that entered made him catch his breath, not from fear but from wonder. The stellary woman moved with an otherworldly elegance, her crystalline markings casting dancing patterns of light across the sterile walls of the xenobiology lab. "Dr. Harrison," she inquired, her voice creating harmonious echoes in the quiet space. "I'm afraid Dr. Harrison was called away on an emergency," Marcus replied, setting down his specimen slides. "I'm Dr. Marcus Reed, his research partner." "You? Must be Kira Voss from the exchange program." He watched as surprise flickered across her features and her markings shifted to a pale gold. Clearly, she hadn't expected such a warm reception. Most humans on the station regarded the few alien visitors with suspicion at best, hostility at worst. "I apologize for my appearance," Kira said, a reflexive response Marcus had heard from other non-human visitors. "I know my kind can be unsettling." To humans, Marcus frowned, genuinely puzzled. "Unsettling. Your bioluminescent patterns are remarkable from a scientific standpoint. The way your crystalline structures interface with your nervous system is unlike anything we've documented. Fascinating, not frightening." Kira's antennae twitched with what Marcus was beginning to recognize as surprise. Her markings brightened to warm amber. "You study our biology?" "Among others," Marcus nodded, gesturing to the lab around them. "I've spent the last 8 years researching how different species have evolved unique communication methods." People's color language is incredibly sophisticated. Each hue and pattern conveys emotional nuances that human facial expressions can't begin to match. For the first time since arriving on the station, Kira felt her tension ease. Here was someone who saw her differences as valuable rather than threatening. Most humans find our color changes disturbing, she admitted. Most humans fear what they don't understand, Marcus replied sadly. But I've found that knowledge is the best antidote to fear. Would you like some coffee? Or do you prefer the mineral supplements your people require? Kira stared at him. No human had ever bothered to learn about Stellari dietary needs before. You've researched our nutritional requirements? Of course. How could I properly host exchange students without understanding their basic needs? Marcus moved to a specialized replicator he'd installed specifically for non-human visitors. I have crystalline supplements that should resonate with your internal formations. As he prepared her nutrition drink, Marcus continued talking. Read your published papers on quantum consciousness theory. Your hypothesis about how crystalline neural networks process information at the quantum level is groundbreaking. I'm hoping we can collaborate during your stay here. Kira's markings cycled through shades of blue and violet, expressing emotions she'd rarely felt among other species. Respect, recognition, hope. You've read my work multiple times. Your understanding of how consciousness interfaces with quantum fields could revolutionize how we approach artificial intelligence development. Marcus handed her the supplement drink, careful not to make her feel self-conscious about their physical differences. I was hoping you'd be willing to share your insights with our research team. As Kira sipped her drink, feeling the familiar resonance of crystalline particles harmonizing with her internal structures, she realized something profound was happening. For the first time in months of traveling through human space, she was being seen not as an alien curiosity or threat, but as a respected scientist and equal. I would be honored to collaborate with you, Dr. Reed, she said, her markings settling into the warm silver that indicated contentment and acceptance. Marcus smiled, recognizing the significance of her color change, even if she didn't realize he understood it. Perhaps this exchange program would accomplish more than either of them had dared to hope. Captain Jana Torres stood in the security monitoring center, her dark eyes fixed on the screens displaying various sections of New Geneva Station. As head of station security, she prided herself on maintaining order and protecting the thousands of humans who called this outpost home. The recent arrival of the Stellari exchange student had put her on edge, though she told herself it was purely professional concern. Captain, Officer Blake called from his console. We've got reports of a disturbance in the main recreational deck. Some kind of altercation involving the alien. Jana's jaw tightened. She'd known this would happen eventually. On my way, when she arrived at the scene, she found a crowd of humans surrounding Kira Voss, who stood pressed against a viewing port. With her crystalline markings flashing rapid cycles of red and orange, 3 men blocked her path, their postures aggressive and threatening. We don't want your kind here, one of them was saying. This is a human station, and we've got families to protect. I mean no harm, Kira replied, her voice steady despite the distress patterns racing across her skin. I'm here as part of an official exchange program. Official or not, you're not welcome, another man spat. We've all heard the stories about what your people did to the Centauri colonies. Jana pushed through the crowd, her hand resting on her stunner. What's going on here? Just having a friendly conversation with our visitor, the first man said, with false innocence, explaining some local customs. Before Jana could respond, the station's emergency alarm began blaring. Red lights bathed the corridor as an automated voice announced, "Hull breach detected in Section 12. All personnel evacuate immediately. This is not a drill." The crowd began to panic, people pushing and shoving toward the nearest emergency exits. In the chaos, Jana saw one of the confrontational men stumble and fall, his leg trapped under a piece of decorative sculpture that had toppled during the evacuation rush. The section blast doors were already beginning to close, and in minutes, emergency force fields would activate, sealing off the damaged area. Without hesitation, Kira moved toward the trapped man. Her antennae extended fully, glowing with intense blue light as she assessed his condition and the structural damage around them. She wrapped her arms around the heavy sculpture, her crystalline formations brightening as she channeled energy through her enhanced musculature. "Don't touch me," the man gasped, fear overriding his pain. "The sculpture is too heavy for Captain Torres to lift alone," Kira said calmly, "and you have internal injuries that require immediate medical attention. My people's enhanced strength can free you." Jana watched in amazement as Kira lifted the sculpture with obvious effort, her entire body glowing like a living constellation. The trapped man scrambled free, just as the blast doors sealed, leaving them in the emergency evacuation zone. "Medical team to Section 12 evacuation area," Jana called into her communicator, then looked at Kira with new eyes. "That was thank you." Kira's markings had shifted to deep blue, indicating exhaustion from her efforts. "My people believe that life is precious, regardless of species or personal feelings." The man Kira had saved looked up at her from where he sat being treated by medics, his earlier hostility replaced by confusion and something approaching shame.
Why would you help me after what I said?
Simply, that's what matters. As the crisis passed and normal operations resumed, Jana found herself seeing the station's alien visitor in an entirely different light. The creature she'd viewed as a potential security threat had risked her own safety to save someone who had been tormenting her. It was a level of compassion and courage that put many of Jana's own people to shame. Later, in her security office, Jana pulled up Kira's files and began reading more carefully. Not just the security briefings and potential threat assessments, but the scientific credentials, the research papers, the commendations from other species who had worked with stellary scientists. She was beginning to realize that her prejudices had blinded her to something important. Kira Voss wasn't just an alien to be monitored and contained. She was an individual deserving of the same respect and protection Jana would give to any member of her community. The crystalline communication array in Kira's quarters hummed to life, filling the small space with the harmonious tones of long-distance stellari transmission. The holographic projection that materialized showed an imposing figure whose crystalline formations had deepened to the dark indigo that marked extreme age and wisdom among their people. "Elder Thane Korth," Kira said, dropping into the traditional greeting posture of her people. "I am honored by your communication." "Rise, young scholar," Thane replied, his voice carrying the weight of centuries. "I bring word from the High Council of Luminous. Your time among the humans has been observed." Kira's markings flickered with uncertainty. Communications across interstellar distances were expensive and difficult, reserved for only the most important matters. "Is there concern about my research progress? Dr. Reed and I have made significant breakthroughs in quantum consciousness. Theory? The Council cares little for human theories," Thane said dismissively. "What concerns us are reports of your behavior, saving humans who showed you hostility, sharing our sacred color language with alien researchers, abandoning the proper dignity expected of our kind." The crystalline patterns beneath Kira's skin darkened to deep purple as she processed his words. "I acted according to our most fundamental beliefs. I preserved life and shared knowledge that could benefit all species." "You acted like a human," Thane corrected sharply. "The High Council has decided your exposure to their influence has been corrupting. You will return to Luminous immediately." "But my research term isn't complete," Kira protested. "The work Dr. Reed and I are doing could revolutionize how different species understand each other. It could prevent conflicts, save lives across the galaxy." Thane's expression grew stern. "Stellari do not need the approval or understanding of lesser species. Our ways have kept us strong and pure for millennia. These humans have filled your mind with their chaotic emotions and reckless compassion." "Compassion is not weakness," Kira said quietly, her voice gaining strength with each word. "The humans I've worked with have shown me that understanding between species isn't just possible. It's essential for the future of all our civilizations." "You speak like them now," Thane observed with disgust. "See how they have corrupted your thinking. Among our people, you were destined for great things. You could serve on the High Council, guide our species toward greater achievements. Instead, you waste your gifts playing at friendship with aliens who will never truly accept you." Kira thought of Dr. Reed's genuine excitement about her theories. of Captain Torres's growing respect and protection, of the young humans who now greeted her in the corridors without fear. Some of them have accepted me. It's more than accepted me. They valued me as an equal. Illusion, Thane dismissed. When crisis comes, when difficult choices must be made, they will choose their own kind over you. It is the way of all species. Only among the Stellari will you find true belonging. The transmission flickered as Thane prepared to end the communication. You have 3 days to conclude your affairs and report to the transport ship Celestial Harmony. The Council has spoken. As the hologram faded, Kira sat alone in her quarters. Her crystalline formations cycling through every color in the spectrum as her emotions churned. She thought of her life on Luminous, the rigid structure and ancient traditions, the honor and respect she commanded among her own people. Then she thought of the laboratory where she and Marcus worked as equals, of Jaina's protective friendship, of the small but growing community of humans who had learned to see past her. Differences the choice before her seemed impossible. Return to the certainty and acceptance of her homeworld, or stay in a place where she had found something she'd never experienced. Among her own kind, the freedom to be herself without the weight of countless traditions and expectations. The humans, she wasn't just another Stellari following ancient paths. She was Kira Voss, scientist, friend, and bridge between worlds. But Thane's words echoed in her mind. When crisis came, would the humans truly stand with her? Or would species loyalty prove stronger than the bonds she thought she'd formed? As she stared out at the stars, Kira realized that her choice would define not just her own future, but possibly the future of relations between her people and the rest of the galaxy. The main assembly hall of New Geneva Station had never hosted such a gathering. Representatives from a dozen species filled the seats, their various forms creating a tapestry of galactic diversity. At the center of the chamber, Kira stood before the High Council's enforcement ship that had arrived to retrieve her, her crystalline markings steady and determined. Elder Thane Koreth materialized via hologram, his ancient features stern with disapproval. Kira Voss, you have defied the Council's direct order. Return immediately, or face exile from Luminous forever. I understand the consequences of my choice, Kira replied, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustics. But I have found something here that I cannot abandon. Dr. Marcus Reed stepped forward from the crowd. Elder Koreth, with respect, Kira's research contributions have advanced our understanding of consciousness by decades. Her insights are helping us develop universal translation protocols that could eliminate miscommunication between species. Captain Jaina Torres moved to stand beside Marcus. She saved the life of a man who had threatened her. She's put herself at risk multiple times to protect station personnel, regardless of how they treated her. That's not corruption, it's heroism. Thane's expression hardened. Human sentiment means nothing to the High Council.
Our ways.
Then your entire civilization. Age doesn't always mean wisdom, said a new voice. Ambassador Ren Jakara of the Altarian Confederation approached the center of the chamber, his diplomatic robes rustling. The Altarians have watched this experiment with great interest. What we've observed here suggests a new model for interspecies cooperation. More voices joined the discussion. Captain Vega Santos of the Centauri Trade Alliance spoke of how Kira's cultural insights had resolved 3 separate diplomatic incidents. Dr. Yuki Tanaka from the Human-Alien Medical Exchange described how Stellari healing techniques had saved dozens of lives across multiple species. You see, Thane said to Kira, they use you for your abilities, take what they need, and offer pretty words in return. Come home to your true people. Kira's markings began to glow brighter, shifting through colors that few non-Stellari had ever seen. When she spoke, her voice resonated with harmonics that made the entire chamber vibrate. My true people are not defined by species, Elder. They are defined by shared values, mutual respect, and the courage to build something better together. She turned to address the assembly. I was born Stellari, and I will always honor that heritage. But I choose to be something more. I choose to be a citizen of the galaxy, working to bridge the gaps between all our peoples. The chamber erupted, in voices from multiple species, all expressing support for Kira's choice. But it was what happened next that truly changed everything. A young Stellari woman stepped out from behind Thane's projection, her crystalline formations glowing with rebellious orange patterns. I am Nira Vel, daughter of council member Zephyr Vel. I renounce my place in Stellari society to join this new alliance. Then another voice, older and more resonant. I am Jorik Kess of the Centauri Heavy Worlds. My people have debated joining this collaboration for months. Today, we commit to the New Geneva Accords. Within minutes, representatives from 8 different species had pledged to establish a new interstellar cooperative dedicated to sharing knowledge, resolving conflicts peacefully, and celebrating the diversity that made the galaxy strong, rather than fearing it. Elder Thane's projection flickered as his anger grew. You think this coalition will last? When resources become scarce? When territories are disputed? When survival is at stake? You will all retreat to your own kind. Maybe, Marcus said, moving to stand beside Kira. But maybe we'll choose to stand together instead. Maybe we'll prove that the best parts of each species can combine to create something stronger than any of us alone. As Thane's transmission ended and the Stellari enforcement ship departed without its intended prize, Kira found herself surrounded by beings from across the galaxy, all united by a shared vision of cooperation over conflict. Her crystalline formations settled into a pattern of colors that had never been recorded before, a new expression that represented hope, determination, and the joy of belonging to something larger than any single species or world. She was no longer just stellary or just human allied. She had become something entirely new, a citizen of the stars, helping to write the first chapter of a truly galactic civilization. The station's viewing ports revealed the vast cosmos beyond, filled with infinite possibilities for those brave enough to reach across the darkness and take each other's hands.